New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good morning. It's Saturday morning on the New Thought Media Network. Welcome to the Science, Mind, and Spirit Conversation Series. I'm Reverend Barbara Jean Schreiner Trudell, and I am the founder and spiritual director of the Universal Joy Center in Toronto, Canada. And my pronouns are she, they. Well, there's a team of us, as you probably noticed in that opening graphic, and every Saturday morning we join you here on the New Thought Media Network to share the science mind, the principles, the practices, and more than anything else, how to apply those principles in your life today, because that's where the value is. So if you're watching live, I'd love it if you put a greeting in the chat. It's always nice to see who's here and, you know, who might be watching and who's interested in all of what we're doing. So please feel free to put questions or whatever you have in there. And I always love to say hello. So how does this program work? Well, from January to July, we go through the Science Mind textbook. We explore it chapter by chapter. And then in the last few months of the year, we actually go to the Science of Mind library and archives, which of course is available 24/7. And that helps us go even deeper. We can read more of Ernest Holmes' writings and other resources related to Science Mind specifically. There's so much there for you to use, to explore. So I invite you to really check it out. Go to sciencemindarchives.com. And our topic today comes from a book by Ernest Holmes called Think Your Troubles Away. Yeah. Did you know we could do that? Of course you knew. That's why you're here, right? Well, the topic today is your spiritual adventure, which can be found on page 42 of this book. And I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know if I really thought about it when I was new to Science Mind, but thought of it much later, is that we're on a journey and the journey has no destination. Yeah. So when we go deep into our spirituality, that's a game changer. So one of the greatest, if not the greatest endeavors we could possibly undertake would be the discovery of the infinite creative potential that resides in our minds. In undertaking this discovery, there are several specific ideas which can be followed and which, if properly used, may be productive, creating concrete and tangible experiences in your daily life. So, are you ready for an adventure? Yes. So imagine for a moment, Ernest Holmes wrote, suppose we wish to embark on a journey of friendship. Suppose I am an individual, typical of countless other individuals, who is very sensitive, very confused, whose experiences have been such that I feel everything is against me, nothing is for me, nobody loves me, no one considers me. I'm quite conscious that once in a while I am asked to a party through some spirit of altruism on the part of the other. And being conscious of this fact, I'm doubly miserable. I am that individual whom the world has apparently turned against, who hasn't a friend. Now I begin to embark on the voyage of friendship. So we got to change a little bit of that dialogue. Am I right? Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is become friendly in our own thoughts. Not anywhere else, not out here, but right here in my own thought. So I must begin in my own mind. Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. Okay, so what we might want to say is everything is one. I have no enemies. I am one with all good. All good is one with everybody. Therefore, I am one with all people. Wherever I go, whenever I go, I am meeting friendship, love, kindliness, and consideration. So let's really think about that statement. Everything is one. Like the minute we grasp the idea that there is this infinite divine presence that is everywhere, if it's everywhere, I mean, think about this for a minute. If it's everywhere, it's right here where I am, right there where you are. Take that in. I am one with everything. Whew. The minute we take that concept and really grasp it, we start to live in a little bit different way. We begin to live with a sense of greater creativity and possibility. We're more confident and powerful in how we present and how we stand up, how we show up. And so it's really, really important that we come to understand this particular piece, the most important piece of the entire journey. Because the minute we get this, things start to change immediately. So he wrote that he who would have friends must be a friend to everyone they meet. They must sense and know that everyone they meet is a friend. Whoever does this will find friends everywhere they go. So how long will it to bring about such a desired result? It'll take as long as it takes. And how will we know when the work is complete? When the demonstration is made. You got that, right? When the demonstration is made. So the minute I have friends in front of me, in the minute that I'm hanging with my pals, in the minute that I am enjoying the company of others, in that moment, the demonstration has been made. Okay, so if we were trying to increase our income, how would we know that our treatments are working? We would know when the demonstration is made. Money's coming in, bills are getting paid, there's a sense of comfort and freedom, maybe even a date night or two, like all sorts of things begin to change. So I invite you to really work on one thing, just one thing. You work on this one thing, you're set. If you can really grasp it and get it. I am one with God. I am one with Spirit. I am one in God. Yeah. So when we look at what it is that we want to demonstrate, we must in fact begin right here. The minute we try to work out here, we're working in a space that has already been created and is in the process of change. So what we want to do is go back to first cause, which is mind. What I think about, how I think about it, what I do. So suppose, Ernest Holmes writes, suppose we wish to demonstrate peace. Absence of peace denotes fear. So what is it that people are afraid of? Well, look around today. There's a whole bunch of fear going on, causing anxiety and upset. So what is that all about? Like, why are we focused on the thing we don't want rather than the thing we do want? That's where the shift has to change. So what is it that people are afraid of? Well, only a few things, and in the long run, only one thing. We are apparently afraid of physical suffering, being misunderstood, lack, poverty, and the uncertainty of the future. But these are all the offspring of one central fear, which is that we are not sure of the self and the continuity of the self. He goes on to say, I say in all seriousness that the starting point of spiritual understanding and whatever goes with it is the solid establishment without superstition, but by reason and such intuition as we have of the actual beingness of the self. That is why the great teacher said, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Yeah. Our soul, like, there's a little bit of confusion in our teaching sometimes with newer students and sometimes with students who are not all that new. But one of the things that has caused some concern is that, we talk about, change your thinking, change your life. We talk about what you think about, you bring about, and somebody all of a sudden gets a diagnosis of cancer. Are they to blame for cancer? Did they make themselves get cancer? So we want to be really clear in our teaching that there is within us a consciousness that is connected with all consciousness everywhere, right? Because there's only one thing. And because we live, move, and have our being in the one thing, whatever gets put into it affects all of it. So how do we change that? So somebody gets a cancer diagnosis and immediately they jump into fear. Oh my God, I'm going to die, blah, blah, blah. And we know that a lot of cancer is cured these days. But how do we create a healing? So the healing itself is not about the disease. It is about the individual. And healing is about being absolutely A-okay with where I am in the now moment and allowing myself to live from that place, which then causes an effect in the body. So he goes on to say, our soul is lost when we are confused and in doubt. It is lost when we are unhappy. The starting point then is one's conviction of one being the manifestation of God. So if that were true, and I had a diagnosis of cancer, what I would know is that I am not cancer. I am a divine creative being living wholly and completely in a divine loving universe. Cancer has no power here. The power of life is all powerful. And so we begin to reframe our thinking. And instead of looking at the problem or the perceived problem, the disease, we look at, wait a minute, what's actually true at the soul level? What's true and in that subjective level? What's true there? Well, the truth is we're all perfect, whole, and complete. Our behavior may suggest otherwise, but we are, in fact, perfect, whole, and complete. And if that's the case, what happens when we return to that understanding and actually believe it? See, the minute we know it's true, then our circumstance begins to change. The demonstration gets made. It's really important that we get that one thing first. Ernest Holmes goes on to write, we are conscious of the real self, which is established in perpetual peace in such degree as we become conscious of the universal self in which all other selves exist. And in the Bible it said, for in him we live and move and have our being. Yeah. There's one power in the universe. There's one infinite thing, and we're in it. So it is the cells of my body, the activity of my mind, the structure of my glasses, all of it is in this one thing. So this is what we're struggling to grasp sometimes, is how do I live from that wholeness? And the way we live from that wholeness is to stop talking about the problems. Now, I'm not saying stuff them down, and I'm not saying do spiritual bypass. What I'm saying is feel what you're feeling, but acknowledge the fact that it is not an entity of itself. It is rather an experience that you are currently having. And that experience can change by changing our thinking. So Ernest Holmes goes on to write, to be conscious that one is poised in the eternal, that the outcomes of evolution are certain, that the continuity of one's soul is secure, that all is working together for good, is what produces peace. That's what produces peace. To be conscious that one is poised in the eternal is what produces peace. Anybody wishing that they had more peace in their life? Anyone wishing that, somehow, some way there'd be more peace in our world? Anybody wishing that somehow, some way everything could be better in our world? These are things that we think about sometimes. These are things that can cause us anxiety or something. But the minute we acknowledge that we are part of this infinite one and that what it is, we are. So what I begin to come to understand is I am powerful, I am knowledgeable, and I am connected to all things. I am one with all things. I must be. I mean, if you look at the ocean and you look at the wave, well, we know the wave is ocean water, as we are the expression of the divine. So he goes on to talk about peace is the pearl of great price for which a person will sell all that they have in order that they may possess it. Peace cannot arise from doubt or fear, but comes only in quiet confidence and perfect trust. So as we're doing our daily meditation, as we're doing our daily treatments, our journaling, our gratitude, our forgiveness, whatever practices that we are doing, all of these practices are helping us to clear the energy of negativity that may be blocking or stopping us, holding us back from our greatness. So peace is not in the wind or the wave, but in the still small voice. Yeah, that still small voice, that voice inside of us that speaks quietly at first, raises the volume a little later, and eventually kicks us in the pants if we're not listening. So peace is not to be found in the future, nor can it be dragged out of the past. Today, we need to establish it as a mental and spiritual quality. It is nothing whatever to do with externals. We must arrive at the place of peace in the midst of apparent confusion, or not at all. Not by the contemplation of confusion, but by the recognition of peace itself shall we arrive. And I remember reading a story years ago that was in, I can't remember the name of the book. So the author, I will remember his name, the author meets up with his indigenous friend, and they're going hiking because they're going to pray for rain. It's, been a drought that they're living in, and they're going to pray for rain. And so they go on this long hike up this hill, and they come to this place that's really quite incredible, sacred even, and it has a circle of stones, and the indigenous man goes into the middle of the circle, and he stands there for a minute or two, and then he steps out and says, let's go for breakfast. And the author, who looks at him and goes, I thought we were going to pray for rain. And his friend says, if we pray for rain, it means we don't have it. He said, I prayed rain. I could feel it pouring over my body. I could feel the mud between my toes. We pray rain. And so I invite you to begin to look at how you're doing, even how you're doing your spiritual practice. Are you keeping yourself focused on that oneness, or are you looking at the problem and trying to find solutions? Because we do that, right? That's how we've been taught to do things. But what if What if there's a different way? What if by sitting in the silence, we begin to listen to that still small voice that suggests turn left, turn right, do this, do that, whatever it might be? What happens if we do that? Peace. Doesn't matter what happens out here. I choose peace. So rather than reacting to the world around me, I'm going to respond from this place within, this deep and remarkable place that speaks only peace and love. So as I relax into that, I find that I can be in challenging situations without reacting in a really negative way. He says, self-treatment to know that I am the principle of peace within me, which is God, the living Spirit Almighty, is desirable. In spiritual adventures of the mind, we consciously use our thought to set creative power in motion and then await with expectancy the desired result. That's a quote of Ernest Holmes. We wait with expectancy for the desired result. So we are, in a certain sense, experimenting, not with mind itself, but with our own thought in seeing what use we can make of the creative power of mind. And I know when I first got into Science of Mind, one of the first things my classmates and I would do is go, okay, front row parking everywhere all the time. And that was what we wanted to manifest. Because if we could manifest that, we could manifest anything, right? So I've been working with that for 30 years, and it works. I get excellent parking wherever I go. Now, why is that? Well, because deep down I go, yeah, that's easy. That can happen, right? I believe it's possible. And because I believe it's possible, it happens all the time. Now, what about the areas of our life that we're wishing and hoping would change? You ever do that? Wish and hope and think, oh, maybe someday, possibly. Wishing and hoping. Well, instead of doing that, we go into a place of knowing our oneness with spirit. See, that's all we got to know. We don't need to know anything else. If we know that, we are in a place of real power. So I'm going to share with you some fiction, but fiction sometimes tells a story that reminds us of a greater truth. And when I think of some of the movies I've watched and some of the inspiration I've received from them, I think, wow, that's really quite amazing. So what about Forrest Gump? I mean, think about Forrest Gump for a minute. Now, some people would go, there's an idiot. I don't think he was. I think he was probably smarter than most of us because he didn't get in the way of that message that was always coming in. When he was, when he was running across the country, when he was done, he went, oh, I'm done. Now, he didn't go, oh, I have to run further because all these people expect me to. No, he was done. He knew he was done. And so he stopped. When he was out shrimp boat fishing, going, I have no idea what I'm doing here. But he's doing it. He's doing it every day because he's going to do for his friend who died in war. He's going to do for his friend's family what his friend couldn't do, but what he'd wanted to do. You see, Forrest Gump just listened to that inner guidance and did it without question, without reservation, without hesitation. He just stepped in and did it. And everything worked out. And yes, it's a work of fiction. But in that work of fiction, could we maybe find an essence of something that might inspire us to listen and respond? Listen and respond. Yes. All right. So this creativeness that we're going to work with, Ernest Holmes says, this creativeness we do not inject into mind. It is already there. a natural law in the universe. We should each picture ourselves and think of ourselves as we would like to be. So, just take a moment right now and think, what is it that I desire in life? Where do I hope to go, or what do I hope to accomplish? What is my grand vision? And as we sit with that, what might come of that? If we begin to see ourselves instead of broken and flawed and not enough, what if we saw ourselves as unique and special, knowing that all is well? What if that was the way we spoke to ourselves? When we looked in the mirror in the morning, we were like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. Can we do that? Can we learn to love and appreciate what the universe has provided us with? We've been provided with a body. Whatever level it functions at is divinely perfect for what we're here to do. We've been supplied with a mind that thinks, that's connected to all that is. And in the subjective, we remember everything from every time. And you might think you've forgotten stuff, but believe me, it's in there. If we begin to live from our oneness, from that place of wholeness, if we begin to speak to ourselves in a loving, kind, and compassionate way, things begin to change. We begin to demonstrate in a different way. And I know many people have heard of the law of attraction. Well, there's so much more than that, but the law of attraction basically says what will be drawn to you is who you are, who you believe yourself to be. That's what will be drawn to you. Not what you're wishing and hoping for, not what you're wanting, but rather what you believe about yourself, what you believe about the world, what you believe. What you believe becomes your experience. And so the law of attraction is very exact. If I think I'm a loser, I get to be right, just like that story I shared at the beginning. Looking for a friend and thinking the world's against you and all is bad and nobody loves you and you're not enough. And well, you begin to manifest all of that everywhere you go. But the moment you change your intention, your direction, your thoughts, the minute you begin to see yourself in your wholeness, right? Knowing that we are created perfect, whole, and complete, right? Nothing needs to be added. The universe thought of everything. So what are we required to do? We're required to live the life we have. And now is the only point of power, and now is the only moment. Now is the point of creation. No future, no past. Now. Repeat after me. Now is the point of power. Now is the point of power. If we can really acknowledge that and begin to live from that, we begin to shift the way our life looks. He said, we should do this, like do this picturing of ourselves without contradicting the good of others, without seeking to coerce others. We should do this as an absolute sense of what is possible. That is, we should withdraw from any contemplation of the relative facts in the case and think only of the desired outcome as being established in mind. So when we're looking at the world around us and we're a little unsure about what's happening next, we don't want to sit in the problem. So I actually don't watch the news. What's fascinating, though, is everybody tells me what's going on. So I end up hearing about it, or I overhear my husband listening to The Daily Show or something, and I get little clips from there. But what I've come to understand is that if I sit down and watch, that 24-hour news cycle that just keeps going and going, I found years ago when I would sit and do that, I would become very anxious, going, whoa, look at the world. It's such a mess. But then I stopped doing that. I stopped watching the news. I think after 9/11, I watched that plane hitting the second building, I don't know how many hundreds of times. We have to stop. We have to stop focusing on the problem and begin to focus on the capital T truth of who and what we are. Right? So he goes on to say, mind finds its own avenue and outlet and releases its own energies for the purpose of self-expression. Whether we think we are dealing with our individual mind or with the universal mind, we are dealing with the same thing. What we call our individual mind is merely the place where we, as an individual, use the creative power of mind, capital M, mind. Okay? So, therefore, to be still and know means to get quiet in our own thought, to be conscious that the creativeness of the universal mind is immediately present within us, to believe that whatever is in accord with its fundamental unity is responsive to us. And no matter who we are or where we are, we have immediate and complete access to this ever available power. To believe that it is omnipresent and come quietly to it, stating our proposition in complete trust. This is the correct practice. So if I'm sitting back going, oh, I win $1 million. Oh, I played the lottery. I win $100 million. I don't know what the big lotteries are in the US now, but they're getting a little huge. When I tell myself that, there's a wishing and hoping thing going on. There isn't an absolute knowing, yeah, this is mine. I got this. When we have that knowing, it's powerful. It's almost indescribable. It's so clear. When I was getting ready to move to Toronto to start a Science Mind Center here, the knowing that I had when it was time to come, I was at a conference and all of a sudden it's like a freight train rolling through the back of my skull that said, time to go to Toronto. Whew. And I came here with $40, a one-way plane ticket to the town an hour and a half away, and 2 suitcases of summer clothes and my laptop. And what happened from there? Well, here I am still. I've started 2 centers here. The energy that we put into life matters. The excitement, the exhilaration, the joy we feel in certain moments, we want to carry that forward more often because, again, the law of attraction, we're going to draw to us everything that matches that energy. Have you ever noticed that people who are really popular are really, they're really excited, connected, they connect with people, they're kind of outgoing, not necessarily, but sometimes, and they have a way of making people want to hang with them. How do they do that? By being themselves. By being themselves. You see, sometimes we start hiding. We pretend. We're going on a first date and we want to make a good impression, right? And because we want to make a good impression, we dress a certain way, we make sure our hair and makeup is perfect, and then we act really proper, and we make sure that when we're in the restaurant, we're not putting our elbows on the table, and we're eating, in small little bites, and we're being polite, and blah, blah. Well, there's nothing wrong with all that stuff, but if it's not who I am, then it's a lie. And if I'm lying in my first time meeting someone, am I creating a close bond or am I maintaining a level of separation? But see, the minute we know there's only one thing, we're all connected. So he goes on to write, the great adventure which the mind makes in the realm of spirit is perhaps the most fascinating thing we can do. We must be careful to differentiate between this form of practice and mere daydreaming. I think we've all done some of that. In daydreaming, a person sits around longing for things, picturing himself as being something that he knows he is not, or she is not, or they are not, letting their imagination run wild, soaring, as it were, into realms of fancy. Okay, that's not where we want to go. That's not how we want to spend our time. But in scientific spiritual mind treatment, we don't do that. We take a proposition which is in mind, which mind can encompass, such as realizing that we are surrounded by friendship. So if we go back to the story of friendship, right? We're surrounded by friendship, by right opportunity and abundance. And we compel our mind to accept this idea as now being a fact in our everyday experience. So when we're doing treatment and we're speaking about friendship, we would be saying things like, oh, I'm in love with life and I love people and I draw people to me in such harmonious and glorious ways. And I feel excited and delighted by the time we spend together and the joy of our friendship and the things we create. We start talking about it like it is done. And we allow ourselves to feel that energy of, yes, of course. Of course, I'm surrounded by friends. Of course, I would be loved. Of course, I connect with everyone around me. Oh, yes. Yes. So the minute we start to really embody this new idea, and we might have to do it in baby steps, because if the doubt comes up going, yeah, right, wishful thinking, then we want to treat the doubt. We want to go, well, wait a minute. You have no power here. The only power here is my divine right to create my own experience. And I do that through my thinking. So goes on to say, he takes a proposition which the mind can encompass, okay, such as realizing that we are surrounded by friendship, right opportunity, and abundance, and compels their mind to accept this idea as now being a fact in their everyday experience. Yeah. Consequently, their work is intensely practical, and although they are being an idealist, it is scientific in its application of this universal principle of mind to the problems of everyday life. So, what can be more practical than to set our mind and spiritual house in order and then, insofar as possible, let it produce for us the necessary things of life, the beautiful things of life? What can be more practical than to gain the ability to demonstrate in our experience that we can consciously call on a higher power to do our bidding whenever our will is in conjunction with its will, with the understanding that its will never limits our good, our real good. So sometimes I hear people say, well, if I do this, then I can't do the other thing. If I'm spiritual, which of course we're all spiritual, but anyway, if I'm on this spiritual adventure and I'm thinking that, good life is coming to me, that I live in a joyful, powerful, positive existence, that I'm surrounded by love and acceptance, what happens is I begin to feel a deep sense of peace and comfort within myself. I start to acknowledge that this peace and comfort is available to all. And I begin to live in that awareness, in that understanding, and in that place of acceptance. So the treatment work that I do is always about being fully present now. I can only work in the now moment. You can only work in the now moment. So live here. Live here. Don't think too far into the future, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. And forget the past, frankly. I know we can't really forget it, but we can take away the power it has over our current emotional state. Because sometimes what happens is we remember something from the past and then we begin to feel miserable. So let's leave the past where it was, because in the now moment, it doesn't exist. It does not exist now unless I pull that thought forward and start thinking about it and worrying about it and getting anxious about it. Then it becomes my current reality now. So, where are we going to focus our attention? We're going to focus it on oneness. I invite you to focus on oneness, only oneness. Don't worry about every other little thing you have to do. Focus on oneness. Maybe put a thing on your computer that says, I am one with the one. I am the I am. Whatever statement works best for you, put that on your computer. So when it goes to sleep, whoop, that pops up and that's what you're seeing. Put a sign on your wall. Put a little note on the dash of your car. A friend of mine used to run seminars all the time, and he would give out these little stickers that you could put all over the place. And the stickers had 3 letters on them, CYT. Check your thinking. Check your thinking. And he would hand out stacks of them to everybody. So people would put them on their dash of their car. They'd put it on the, cupboards in the kitchen. They would put it on their coffee cup, anywhere that they're going to see it regularly, in their day planner. That was back in the old days when I didn't have my phone. All of these things we can do. We can do this. I know we can do this. How do I know? Because I've done it. And then I forget, and then I remember, and then I do it again. Anybody else do that? Have your moments where you go, really? And then go, oh yeah, you start to see it again. Well, I'm so glad we got to do this today. I really love this book. The book is Think Your Troubles Away by Ernest Holmes. And you can get it on the Science Mind Archives, and that's at sciencemindarchives.com. So I invite you to really take the time to explore yourself. And as you explore yourself, bring that wholeness, bring that glorious being that you are into the world and share it. So in closing today, I really hope you'll join us next Saturday. And all throughout the week, there's a lot of great programming on the New Thought Media Network. On Friday nights at 5 o'clock Mountain, I do the good news. On Friday afternoons at 3 o'clock, I do the Joy Show, Joy being an acronym for Just One You. So I explore who people are and what they do and how exciting their life is. And it's inspiring to others. So whatever you're looking to do, get onto the New Thought Media Network and go through the programming. In fact, leave it up on your computer. When you're doing some work on your desk, listen to the radio station of the New Thought Media Network, or hey, make a donation. Yes, ntmedia.org. Click the donate link and consider making it a recurring donation, knowing that our programming relies on your generosity. So thank you for sharing your morning with me. I'm so delighted you did. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider donating. Yes, keep this baby alive because it really is valuable. I'm Reverend Barbara Jean Schreiner Trudell, and I love you and I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful for this time with you. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.